Hello, everyone. Top of the morning to you, and welcome on in for Week 7 of the NFL season. I'm Tom. He's Matt, and he's Pat, and we are here to give you Pat and Matt's favorite plays for the day before we get into what should be another exciting NFL weekend. Because, guys, we actually have some sans the primetime matchups as per usual now. We have some exciting games on tap today. Matt, Pat, how are you guys doing today? Your first game is the same one, so we can get into it here at the same time. Matt, how are you doing, and where are you going in Ravens versus Browns today? The Ravens currently laying 6.5 at home in Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's another Sunday of NFL football, which means it's the greatest time of the year. But Ravens 6.5. That's where I'm going. Like anytime you give me the opportunity to fade Kevin Stefanski when he's a favorite or when he's going against division, I'm gonna do it. So one of those boxes is checked here. So I am going against Kevin Stefanski, who is 0-4 against the Ravens, by the way. I think this comes down to the Ravens run offense against the Browns run defense. The Ravens, by number of efficiency metrics, are top 3 running the ball. The Browns bottom 3 in run defense. You look at our Fantasy Pros unit power rankings, we see similar disparities between these different units. And I don't think it matters that J.K. Dobbins is out. You have Kenyon Drake, who played very well last week. You have Gus Edwards returning. And then you have Lamar Jackson, who has a position high 451 yards on the ground. He's, like the human cheat code at the quarterback position because of what he can do with his legs. And going against a Browns defense that, is significantly injured in the positions that are key for run defense. Without Chase Winovich, without Stephen Weatherly, Jadeveon Clowney is uncertain. Linebacker Deion Jones isn't certain to play in this game. Their main defensive linebacker in the middle, Anthony Walker, he's out. So very much on the Ravens in this spot because of what I think they can do on the ground. And if a home team can control the clock, control the ball with the ground game, I think it has the ability to pile on points. And I think that is what the Ravens do in this spot. I have it projected at 8.25. So being able to get it below the key number of 7, I think is pretty good.
And you are seeing a couple shops starting to move it towards that 7. It might get there by the time we get to kickoff here. I hate laying a touchdown, but if there's a spot to do it, you nailed it. Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are a good team to be fading, especially in division. That's a damning indictment, by the way, when you want to fade Stefanski anytime he's not a favorite, or anytime he's a favorite or playing a divisional game. That's not leaving you a whole lot of good Kevin Stefanski games here, Matt. Yeah. Pat, what are you thinking in the same game, though?
I'm with Freedman. He mentioned the Stefanski effect. We have seen the Ravens go 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games against the Browns. They are 12-2 straight up in their last 14 home games against the Browns. So this, their dominance in this rivalry has stretched back quite a ways. The Browns defense is just horrible. I mean, they're 31st in defensive DVOA, 27th against the pass, 30th against the run. The Ravens get Rashad Bateman back this week, so maybe they're a little more multi-dimensional on offense. I mean, I agree with Freedman that they're probably going to hurt the Browns badly with the running game, but, they can be a little more versatile with the pass, too. I just don't see the Browns being able to keep the Ravens off the scoreboard here. The 3 Ravens home games so far have all been really close. I mean, they lost to the Dolphins by 4, to the Bills by 3, and then they beat the Bengals by 2. I don't think this one's going to be as close. They are playing an opponent with less class than those other 3 teams the Ravens have played at home.
To Fitz's point about the passing game there, yeah, Rashad Bateman returning, going against a Browns defense that is without number 1 cornerback Denzel Ward, who's still out with a concussion injury. And then on the other side, Wyatt Teller, who's one of the best run blockers in the league, he's out also. And then you have edge rusher Justin Houston, who looks like he's returning for the Ravens. So the Ravens are getting healthy at the right time, and the Browns have some pretty key injuries.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me is the fact that the Ravens have been good at letting teams back into games. But this is, like you said, Pat, much more like when they played the Jets in week 1 and blew them out than all of those other teams that they've let back into games here so far. But, Matt, your next game up here, the Giants are playing the Jaguars. Giants getting 3 points in Jacksonville here. I guess records, we know that records truly don't mean anything when it comes to the book making the number here. But come on, the Giants are 5-1. And I fully petitioned that head coach Dable's new nickname has to be Big Blue.
Yeah, I mean, it's well earned. This number did move to 3.5 at DraftKings and PointsBet, and it got bet back down to 3, which I think is a little bit telling there. The Giants are finding ways to finish games, finding ways to win and to cover, and the Jags aren't. Like, they're totally opposite in that regard. And for me, this comes down to the running game for the Giants, specifically Saquon Barkley, who, is comeback player of the year going against a Jags run defense that I think is, not as good as people would maybe think it is. Saquon Barkley, we obviously know what he's doing. He leads the league with 119 carries. The Giants, they want to run the ball. They have a 52% run rate, which is hard to do in today's NFL, literally to be running more than you are passing the ball, but they are managing to do it. And the Giants, as mediocre as they have been on offense, they've actually been pretty good running the ball. They're number 9 in rush EPA. The Jags have been very average in run defense, number 17 in rush EPA. Barkley, he was dealing with a shoulder injury, but, he practiced fully to close out the week, not even on the injury report. The same thing with Andrew Thomas. I think center John Feliciano, who's dealing with a groin injury, I think he's going to play through that. So I think, they have all the pieces that they need there. And I have these two teams as pretty even in my power ratings. And if you look at these quarterbacks, the difference between Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence, it's pretty non-existent through 5 games, or I guess through 6 games to this point in the year. They're right next to each other in EPA and completion percentage over expectation, right next to each other in QBR. I don't see the Jags as having a 3-point home field advantage. So for me, this is basically Saquon Barkley being able to do his thing. I have this number at 1.75. So on the key number of 3, I do think there's value here.
This is a very tantalizing matchup for me. I am really tempted to go with you here and take the points with the Giants and say that, hey, maybe they are for real. But what about the other New York team potentially being for real? Because I think it is time. This is the game for me. I'm drawing the line in the sand. If they win this one in Denver, I don't care that we got robbed of the Kramer versus Kramer sequel. We're not getting Wilson versus Wilson in this matchup. It's going to be Brett Rippon at quarterback instead. Because of that, the line has actually moved to Jets -1.5. But this is the moment now. This is where people have sat up and they're like, okay, maybe the Jets could actually even make the playoffs. This is the moment where this team drinks their own Kool-Aid and implodes with an embarrassing fall-on-your-face loss. If they don't do that here today against Brett Rippon on the road in Denver, I'm believing in this team. But, Pat, are you believing in them right now as 1.5-point favorites on the road?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear your cynicism, Tom. I am believing in the Broncos to cover the spread here, and I'm really surprised the line has moved to the degree that it has. Freedman and I were texting about this game yesterday, and we both Freedman, I know, has the Broncos still favored, and I was sort of oscillating between this game being either a pick 'em or the Broncos being favored by a point. So you're getting at least, I think, 1.5 of value here, maybe up to 2.5 points of value. Brett Rippon has made one other NFL start, and it just so happened to be against the Jets 2 years ago. They won that game pretty easily. I believe it was an 11-point victory. It was a high-scoring game, 9 points, 37-28 at MetLife in 2020. And there was plenty of offense in that game. Like, Brett Rippon threw for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 3 interceptions. Melvin Gordon ran for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. There was plenty of scoring. Look, the Broncos passing game was not functioning well with Russell Wilson at the controls anyway. So, like, how big a drop-off is this going to be for them? And I think in all other phases, the Broncos are the slightly better team, particularly on defense, where they're second overall in DVOA. The Jets are 12th. I think they can stop the Jets' passing game and make them one-dimensional. Plus, you've got that big home field advantage in Denver with the altitude, the Jets coming in from the East Coast. So yeah, I like Denver here a lot, getting the 1.5.
I gotta say, this is +2 now at DraftKings, and
wow.
it's gone too far for me. I just bet it. I can't. not take that, even though I hate myself. I hate myself for being on the Broncos, but at least it's not Russell Wilson. I said I wouldn't bet on Russell Wilson anymore. So
No,
you
just bet on Brett Rippon, the guy who preseason smart people were saying that the point spread gap between Russell Wilson and Brett Rippon was the largest of any two quarterbacks in the league. That was a preseason evaluation.
I know.
Surely has changed, but not because Russell Wilson has gotten better. For sure, or not because Brett Rippon's gotten better. I love this game as a contest play because you're still getting that mega stale line of Jets plus 1.5. Although really, you wanted the Jets plus 3. You could have gotten on Sunday before the Broncos played. Now I'm just out on this game. I do think the Jets still win it. I am believing the hype. I am drinking the Kool-Aid. I am ready to get hurt again, and that is what's going to happen today. But guys, instead, we can move on here to the next game up for Matt. The Panthers, they are getting a whopping 13 points now against Tampa Bay. I mean, I can't trust this Tampa Bay offense, Matt. What are you doing in this game? Because I don't know that Tampa Bay can score 13 points right now.
I know. So this is still available 13.5 at FanDuel, 13.5 at Unibet. It has moved down to 13, which is disappointing because I don't really want to be betting it at 13.5. I want to bet it at 14 because I don't want to bet this really at all. And I want to try to at least have the push value if it hits 14. Like organizationally, the Panthers are tanking. Not everyone individually is tanking. Like individuals, they still want to win. So, I have to take that into account. But man, 13.5 is it's such a big number in today's NFL. I should say like this year's NFL, where a lot of teams are mediocre and only a couple of teams really deserve to have spreads that are a touchdown or more. Like outside of the Bills, the Chiefs, maybe the Eagles, no team should be favored by a touchdown this year or at this point in this season. Like maybe later in the year when more teams are clearly bad and don't care as much because the end of the season is in sight, but not right now. Like this year, favorites of at least a touchdown are 6-13 against the spread. There's just so much parity in the league right now. Like the Bills, they're 2-0 is big favorites. The Eagles, 1-0. The 49ers, interestingly, 1-0. The Bucs 0-2 against the spread this year when favored by at least a touchdown. I have this projected at 11. Like, man, I hate it. But even at 13.5, even at 13, I still think that there's too much value to pass up, especially between divisional opponents.
And plus, we get to unleash Chuba Hubbard now on this Panthers offense. That's the critical key component that was missing. Now that McCaffrey's gone, they're going to shine. Just watch, man.
And I'll just say, from a fantasy perspective, I'm just hoping like, okay, maybe this means even more targets for DJ Moore. But I feel like I say something stupid like that every week, and it's pain.
No. He's going to get more targets. He's going to go up from 0 to 1 now. That's what we're hoping for. He gets that one reception. Pat, how about you? Another decently big spread here. We've got the Steelers getting a touchdown against Miami. Are you taking the Dolphins or are you going with this? I don't even know who's going to play quarterback right now for the Steelers. Is it Trubisky or Pickett today?
I believe it's going to be Pickett. And this one, so it's at 7 in some spots. On DraftKings this morning, it was 7.5, but it was juiced towards the Steelers. Man, I love it if you can get it at 7.5, but I like it a lot at 7. I feel like the lines have made the Steelers out to be kind of a patsy this year. And I don't think they're quite that bad. Like, I think they're a pretty live dog. 4 of their 6 games this year have been decided by 4 points or less. And those close games were all against reasonably decent teams. The Bengals, Patriots, Jets, and Bills. They lost to the Browns 29-17 in a game where Mitchell Trubisky was just terrible, and they were crushed by the Bills in Buffalo. So, like, I think the Steelers are maybe better than they're getting credit for. It's not really the spot I want to pick the Steelers coming off a win where maybe they're fat and happy after upsetting the Buccaneers last week. And the Dolphins are a little angry that they let a game at home slip away to the Vikings when they, outplayed Minnesota, had 23 first downs versus just 11 for the Vikings. But still, like, I don't like the Dolphins as a big favorite over a team that I think has some punch. So I'm feeling confident enough in Kenny Pickett. I don't think he's a great quarterback by any means, but I do think he's like a fully formed rookie quarterback. Like, I think he's basically as good as he's ever going to be right now. So I think that's going to be good enough to cover and keep it within a touchdown in Miami today.
He's as good as he's going to be right now. That is the most lukewarm endorsement I have seen in a long, long time, my friend. But I think that that's actually a pretty spot on analysis of Kenny Pickett. We will have to see what happens. But guys, if you don't want to have to wait and see what happens about the best place to make winning bets, well, look no further, because the Betting Pros Bet Tracker, Betting Pros app is here. Remember, when you're looking for free picks and sports betting advice, bettingpros.com has you covered with tips from over 150 experts to make it easy for you to cash out. Download the app to get sports betting alerts. You'll get notified of favorable bets based on line movements, consensus picks from the most accurate experts and vetted systems in play. Betting Pros monitors all of the major sports books, most accurate experts, and top systems to identify the best betting opportunities. So download today in the Apple or Google Play stores. And in the meantime, gentlemen, we will move on here to some total plays that you guys like today, including Matt. We're going right back to your first game here. The Ravens and the Browns, 45.5. That total is still that total you can actually get a little bit better at 46.5 if you were looking to an under here. I'm seeing some 46s around town right now. Where are you going in this one, over or under?
Yeah, I'm looking over here. I've been on the Browns overs for the past couple of weeks on this show, and I'm on it again. They're 5-1 to the over. Like, that's a league high in a year where the under has smashed. And this hasn't even really been close. Like, on average, Browns games have gone over by 9 points per game. And it's because their offense is surprisingly somewhat efficient. Like, they run, but they do it really well. And then quarterback Jacoby Brissett, when he's not throwing interceptions, he's been just good enough to keep their drives going. And then on defense, they're really bad. Like, their secondary is exploitable and they can't stop the run at all. So I think the Ravens are able to pile on the points via the run and then the opportunistic deep pass. And the Browns will then do enough offensively to drive this game to the over. I have this projected at 47.6.
Well, there you go. You can still find, I'm looking here on my screen, looking for a nice price on this. You can still find, pretty much the number is settled at 46 right now. There's a 45.5 available at WinBet if you're looking for that over. Pat, where are you going for your first game here? Are you interested in this Lions-Cowboys barn burner?
Yeah, I like it under 49, Tom. And the Dallas defense is just nasty. They lead the NFL in sacks and pressures, and I don't think any team is within 10 pressures of the Cowboys. Like, they can really get after the quarterback. No DeAndre Swift for the Lions today, it's looking like. No DJ Chark, possibly no Josh Reynolds, which means we could see a lot of Khalif Raymond and Tom Kennedy running around out there for the Lions. So it's an underman Lions offense going against this very good defense. I don't know if the Lions get to even 20 points here. And we know the Lions defense is awful. The Cowboys do get Dak Prescott back, but there's bound to be a little bit of rust there. And I kind of doubt that they go with a real pass heavy game plan in Dak's return. So, and Dak was pretty bad the last time we saw him, quite frankly, in week 1, where they lost to the Buccaneers 19-3. Dak completed under 50% of his throws in that game. So I'm just not expecting fireworks here, but we've got a total set up for, a shootout type of game. I don't think we get it today.
Yeah, of course, statistically, the Lions, one of the highest scoring offenses that we have in the league right now. But I think you hit the nail on the head. This team is very banged up. That offensive line will hopefully be able to protect Jared Goff, but he's going to have a harder time today than he's had in most games. And we both know that the key metric for beating Jared Goff is just make him a little bit uncomfortable, and you're going to be fine all day with him in the backfield there. So I'm liking this. I think that this game could be a real good under spot. Matt, how about you? Because you're looking at a game with a very, very small total here, 39 points in the the Panthers Buccaneers game here. Are you still going to go under it? Because I honestly like it.
Yeah, I talked about this game earlier. The total is low, but like who's scoring points in this game? Like there's no need to talk about the offensive incompetence of the Panthers, but the Bucs, like they're not lighting it up this year. The Panthers are decent against the pass. I'm projecting them to have all three of their starting cornerbacks for this game. Those guys were, injured entering this week, but they all practice to the extent that I think they're playing. And ordinarily, I could see the Bucs viewing this as a get right, pile it on type of game, but they've been so bad offensively that I think instead this is just a get a win, don't screw it up, play good fundamental football type of game. And if they're not the ones pushing the urgency, I don't see this game going over. And the Bucs are 5-1 to the under this year. Their games on average have been under by 8.5 points. I have this projected for 37.8. So I think there's still some value even with this number sitting at 39.
Pat, how about you here? The Giants and the Jags. The total in that one's a modest 43.5. I guess you could call the Jags a run team as well. I mean, that's where they're going to be making their best effort. And like you said, the Giants defense has been pretty good so far this year. Are you leaning under?
I am leaning under here, Tom. And, I know Freedman expressed some confidence in the Giants being able to do enough on offense today. I'm not sure about that. Like the Jaguars are 10th in defensive DVOA. The Giants have very little punch in their passing game and, little offensive firepower aside from Saquon. They're 25th in yards per game this year so far. Both of these teams are in the lower half of the league in pace. The Jaguars are 18th. The Giants are 21st. And in their last two games, the Giants, they rank in the bottom three in defensive DVOA, but in their last two games, they held Green Bay to 22 and Baltimore to 20. So I don't think it's a coincidence that in those two games, rookie edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau played his highest snap counts of the year. I think they're a different defense with Thibodeau as a regular. He missed the first two games of the year, then kind of ramped up to bigger snap counts with sort of part-time work in weeks 3 and 4. But the last 2 weeks, he's been out there and making a difference. So I think this one plays under.
I'm liking that here. I'm probably going to be going right after the show and betting that with you. I don't really see this being one of those major shootouts. How about the Titans and Colts, Freedman? Their total's around 42 right now. This feels like a completely stoppable force meets a completely movable object to me when you have the Titans offense going up against this Colts defense right now. I haven't seen much from this team. Flip that. The Colts offense and the Titans defense.
Yeah, they're both disgusting. It's a disgusting AFC South divisional matchup, which just to me screams under. 42. The Colts are 1-5 to the under on average, 7.17 points below the total. Like the Titans and Colts, they both have the run heavy offenses. And we did see the Colts pass a lot last week. That was without Jonathan Taylor. I think with him returning, Naheem Hines returning, Deion Jackson returning, I think the Colts and, I think they return to more of a ground-based approach than what we saw last week. Divisional game with long tenured coaches who know each other. I think familiarity tends to breed lower scoring games. 42. It just feels a little bit too high for two teams that really aren't doing much on offense, and whatever they are doing, they want to do it on the ground.
There is also the reality that just unders have been the play so far this season. Yeah. We've seen a lot more games going under than we usually do. Their points have been in a premium so far. And Pat, that brings us into our last game here. Do you think points are going to be at a premium in this Texans-Raiders matchup? 46 is the total. I trust the Raiders offense to move the ball here, but everybody else involved, not so sure. I don't trust the Raiders defense or the Texans offense.
Yeah, exactly. Tom, there's so many unders I like today. And I'm glad Matthew, Mr. Under Freedman came roaring out of the gates with an over at the top of this over.
The only over that we've picked so far, by the way.
The only one. And I think with my projections, I think I have unders on either 11 or 12 of the 14 games. And it was actually hard to winnow it down to my favorite 3 unders here. And Texans Raiders under 46 had to make the list. I mean, the Texans are averaging 17.2 points a game. They're 30th in yardage per game. Only one Texans game has gone over 43 points this year, 1 out of 5. 2 have produced a point total of 25 or less. The average point total of a Texans game this year has been 37 points. I know the Raiders games have largely been high-scoring affairs this year, but I'm counting on the good old Texans to turn this game into a rock fight. The Texans are 31st in yards allowed, but they are only 13th in points allowed. So they bend, and they bend a lot, but they don't necessarily break all that often. I like this game under.
Please pray for me. I am taking the Raiders in my Survivor contest today. So prayers up if you got them. In the meantime, guys, if we want to send up a little bit of a prayer for a Moneyline underdog parlay here, Matt, where would you be going on your leg?
I'm going against my Cowboys. Fitz laid out the case for a low-scoring game. And if that is what we see, I think that favors Detroit. It gives them, a better chance to pull out the win in this spot. And I think in the against the spread market, we see value here. And if there's value there, then that normally translates to the money line market. And I think this is a situation of a very good Cowboys defensive line, maybe meeting an offensive line that can match it. I have the Lions as having, if not the best offensive line in the league, a top 3 offensive line. And that means they have a chance to protect Jared Goff, and they have a chance to control the game with the ground game. And even if DeAndre Swift doesn't play, sure, that means that maybe this team doesn't rip off the long runs. But I still think that they have the opportunity with Jamal Williams as the between the tackles grinder. They still have the ability to extend drives, to make this a shorter game. And then that gives them the opportunity to pull out a win at the end. And Jared Goff, as you mentioned, when he's pressured, he's horrible. But behind a very good offensive line this year, he has been an average to slightly above average quarterback this year. And so I think that gives them a chance to keep this live. And so at plus 240, which is the kind of consensus line in the market, I do think there's value in that spot.
Pat, how about you? Are you going with an upset artist here?
Wow, this could be a big payoff with Freedman taking the Lions at plus 240, because I'm going with the Steelers at plus 270. So put these two together and you get a pretty nice potential payout here if it works. The one thing, and I mentioned my opinion that the Steelers are kind of a live dog here. The one thing that horrifies you, I think, if you're a Steelers investor, is the matchup of the Dolphins passing game against the Steelers pass defense. The Steelers have been leaky in the back end. Not a great spot for them going up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Steelers haven't been putting any pressure on people, but you've got Tua Tagovailoa coming back from the concussion. We don't know how well he's going to play, whether he's going to be in sync right away with those receivers. You've got Jalen Waddle playing with a shoulder injury that might become an issue for him. So if the Dolphins do not cash in on that mismatch, I think the Steelers are absolutely going to be in this game till the very end. It's possible the Dolphins do click with the passing game and just blow Pittsburgh's doors off right away. But if it doesn't happen, Pittsburgh's going to be in this one till the end.
I mean, they've already shown that they can do it against some other teams. Can they strike again here? We will have to see, but that's going to do it for us here today. Matt, Pat, thank you guys so much for all of the fantastic advice. And guys, if you're watching, don't forget to click that like button real quick. It really helps us out. We appreciate it. We appreciate you being here. Best of luck on this NFL Sunday, and let's cash some tickets.